गोपीजनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय विश्वपाद परमहंस परिचार्य श्रोत श्रीमद श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ISKCON founder-acharya BVD founder Srila Prabhupada की जय। विश्वपाद परमहंस परिचार्य श्रोत श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत संस्थापक श्रील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से गौ श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री राधा कृष्ण गौ गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की मायापुर नवदीप धाम की जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगामयी की यमुनामयी की भक्ति देवी की तुलसी महारानी की समेत गौर भक्त वृंद की। All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraet Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsya. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Chapter 25, the three modes of nature and beyond. First verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Gunanam Asamishranam Puman Yena Yatha Bhavet Tanme Purusha Varyedham Upadharayas Shamsataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O best among men, please listen as I describe to you how the living entity attains a particular nature by association with individual material modes. Purport: the word asamishra indicates that which is not mixed with anything else. Lord Krishna now explains how each of the three material modes, goodness, passion and ignorance, acting separately, causes a conditioned soul to manifest a particular type of existence. The living entity is ultimately transcendental to the modes of nature, being part and parcel of Lord Krishna, but in conditioned life he manifests material qualities. This is described in the following verses. So Vishnu Chakrathakur says in the 25th chapter, the functions of the gunas and various objects affected by the gunas as well as objects beyond the gunas are described in sequence. The function of the three gunas are described because as long as one does not conquer the actions of the three gunas, one continues to identify with the body even if one can distinguish the body from the Atma by Sankhya. The gunas are mixed, but I will describe the gunas not mixed with each other. Please understand as I speak how a person is affected by each guna. So this is basically 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Same thing. Then 2 to 5 verses together. Shamodamastutikshekṣha tapa satyam daya smriti tushtis tyago spriha shraddha rirdayadhi svanirvritihi kamayya madastrishna stamba ashirbhidha sukam madotsaho yasha pritir hasyam viryam balodyamaha Krodho lobha nritam himsa yagnya damba klama kali shokamoha vishadharti nidrasha bhir anudyamaha satvasya rajasascetas tamasaschanupurvashaha vrittayo varnita prayaha sannipatam matho shrinu. Please read.
Mind and sense control, tolerance, discrimination, sticking to one's prescribed duty, truthfulness, mercy, careful study of past and future, satisfaction in any condition, generosity, renunciation of sense gratification, faith in the spiritual master, being embarrassed at improper action, charity, simplicity, humbleness, and satisfaction within oneself are qualities of mode of goodness. Middle desire, great endeavor, audacity, dissatisfaction, even in gain, false pride, praying for middle advancement, considering oneself different and better than others, sense gratification, rash eagerness to fight, a fondness for hearing oneself praised, the tendency to ridicule others, advertising one's own prowess, and justifying one's action by one's strength are qualities of mode of passion. Intolerant anger, stinginess, speaking without scriptural authority, violent hatred, living as a parasite, hypocrisy, chronic fatigue, quarrel, lamentation, delusion, unhappiness, depression, sleeping too much, false expectations, fear and laziness constitute the major qualities of mode of ignorance. Now please hear about the combinations of these three modes.
Okay, so these are characteristics of each of the modes. Of course, so therefore he says this is asamishra. So this is without mixture. But then in reality we find that always there is mix. Always there is mix between all these different modes, influence of these different. And so there is always mixtures of the influences of these three modes. So all these are
Hare Krishna. I'm not able to hear.
so anyway, we are not stopping. We are going ahead. So let us read Bhagavad Gita. So second verse of the 17th chapter states, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Trivida Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Sa Svabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Cheti Tam Shrinu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of three kinds, in goodness, passion, or in ignorance. Now hear about this. Okay, so the faith is of three kinds. Okay, and in the third verse, he says, Sattvanurupa sarvasya shraddha bhavati bharata shraddha mayoyam purusho yoya shraddha sa eva saha. O son of Bharata, according to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. So here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that now the real fact is that every living being, as stated in the 15th chapter, is originally a fragmental part and parcel of Supreme Lord. Therefore, one is originally transcendental to all modes of material nature. One is originally transcendental, para. But when one forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and comes into contact with the material nature and conditional life, he generates his own position by association with the different varieties of material nature. The resultant artificial faith and existence are only material. Although one may be conducted by some impression or some conception of life, originally he is nirgun or transcendental. Therefore, one has to become cleansed of the material contamination that is acquired in order to regain his relationship with the Supreme Lord. That is the only path back without fear, Krishna consciousness. Okay, now in the next paragraph, Srila Prabhupada is writing, the contaminated modes of material nature expand to the hearts. So heart means the chitta, or if you see the verse, it is basically the sattva anurupa. So on one's existence. So basically the influence of the modes is on the heart, the chitta. And therefore, according to the position of the heart in contact with a particular mode of material nature, one's faith is established. It should be understood that if one's heart is in the mode of goodness, faith is in the mode of goodness. Heart is in the mode of passion, faith is in the mode of passion. Heart is in the mode of darkness, faith is also contaminated. And so it's all based upon the influence of the modes on the heart or the consciousness, the chitta. Chitta is contaminated consciousness. So from there, the influence of the modes expands to the various senses and the various parts of the body. Everything is influenced by the three modes. So that is how the influence of the modes acts on everything, on one's whole existence. But essentially the influence of the modes is on the subtle body. So this also is elaborately discussed by Jad Bharat also in the 5th canto, and it's also discussed by Narad Muni to King Prachin Barishad in the 4th canto, 29th chapter. So maybe we'll read a few verses from the 5th canto. So we'll go to 5th canto, 11th chapter. Okay. So we go to 5.11.4. कुछ हो रहा है? Four. Okay, let's recite. Yavan manorajasa purushasya satvena va tamasa vanuruddham cheto bira kutibir atnoti nirankusham kushalam chetaram va. Read.
As long as the mind of the living entity is contaminated by the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion and ignorance, his mind is exactly like an independent, uncontrolled elephant. It simply expands its jurisdiction of pious and impious activities by using the senses. The result is that the living entity remains in the material world to enjoy and suffer pleasures and pains due to material activity.
Hare Krishna. Mic में बोलो. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So here it's mentioned that as long as the mind, yavat manaha. So this the three modes essentially act on the mind. And then when the modes act on the mind, then the mind is like nir-ankusham, no ankush. So the mind becomes totally uncontrolled, like an independent, uncontrolled elephant. And the result is that he has to remain in the material worlds. So that is how the modes essentially act on the mind. And then one performs dharma, adharma, all that. So in the next verse again, next verse. So here also Jadbharat is telling, because the mind is absorbed in desires for pious and impious activities. So from where this desire is coming? The influence of the modes. So because of the influence of the modes, then these desires come for pious and impious activities. It is naturally subjected to the transformation of lust and anger. In this way, it becomes attracted to material sense enjoyment. In other words, the mind is conducted by the modes of goodness, passion and ignorance. There are 11 senses and the 5 material elements, and out of the 16 items, the mind is the chief. Therefore, the mind brings about birth in different types of bodies among demigods, human beings, animals, birds. When the mind is situated in higher or lower position, it accepts a higher or lower material body. So therefore, the main culprit is the mind. So because of the mind, one is forced to accept different bodies based upon pious or impious activities. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada in the purport mentions, material existence means being fully controlled by material nature. The mind is the center for accepting the dictations of material nature. In this way, the living entity is carried away in different types of bodies continuously, millennium after millennium. So here, Srila Prabhupada is writing, material existence means being fully controlled by material nature. And many times in his lectures also Srila Prabhupada explains that in material existence the jiva has practically no independence. Correct? Here he says is fully controlled. In the purport to 7th chapter, Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter, 14th verse, famous verse, Devesha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya. There Srila Prabhupada says that the living entity is bound as if tied by thick ropes by the hands and feet. They are tied. But at the same time we hear that the jiva has free will, correct? Jiva has free will, correct? See here. Another meaning of guna is rope. It is to be understood the conditioned soul is tightly tied by the ropes of illusion. Tightly tied by the ropes of illusion. So a question is, so in conditional life, does the jiva does it have independence or no independence?
Minute independence?
So what is your understanding of minute? How minute it is?
बहुत limited है, बहुत मतलब ज़्यादा भी, we don't have independence so much.
So how will you
dependent on external factors also. Because only जो free will हमारे पास है वो हमारी सिर्फ desire है. बाकी we don't have फुल 100% इंडिपेंडेंस, बहुत छोटी इंडिपेंडेंस.
No, 100% to forget. We are saying no independence. Prabhupada is saying no independence, fully controlled. So, but at the same time we say Jiva is free will. So, how do you explain this?
फ्री विल फॉर ओनली वर्शिपिंग कृष्णा और गोइंग टुवर्ड्स कृष्णा. बाकी कोई दूसरा फ्री विल नहीं है हमारे पास. अगर हमें कृष्णा के पास जाना है तो फिर हमारे पास फ्री विल है. अगर कहीं और जाना है तो देन यू आर बाउंड.
No, that means there is no free will. Before one takes to devotional service, there is no free will. That is what you're saying, correct?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Free will to desire.
But the Jiva always has free will. How can you say the Jiva has no free will?
Free will to desire, but not to the actions. I mean, free will to desire, but then it has to go through the machine of the modes for you to get the result.
Okay, so that means the Jiva has free will to desire, correct?
Yes.
Okay, then that is contradicting this statement here. Fully controlled.
Next.
The actions are fully controlled. The actions are fully controlled. Like we are like the person tied to the machine. The soul is tied to the machine. He can simply sit there and say, "Yes, I want this. I want that." Like a person sitting in a taxi where the taxi driver is driving. He has the real control, whereas the passenger can only say something.
Okay. So that means you're still okay. So that means you're still saying that the Jiva has free will to desire, correct?
Yes, yes.
So that means this statement what Prabhupada is writing is wrong.
No, here he says he has no control in the sense the control to the actions that follow the desire.
Okay, fine. Okay, let's hear from Bhagavad Gita Prabhu.
In conditioned state, living entity always has free will, but in conditioned state he can't actually access that free will in proper sense. Because whatever he is desiring, whatever he is acting, everything is controlled by his impressions, modes, which is he himself choose to be controlled by. So in a sense, he can't choose something beyond modes, but they controlled by modes. Only when he comes kind of devotee, he actually can go beyond three modes and actually choose what he wants to choose, what is good for him. So in that sense, free will is there, but it's not access. He can't execute the free will.
Yes, perfect. What you say is perfect. Can you explain with some example?
Like, means for example, like mode of ignorance or passion, like they do many activities. They go for a picnic or enjoyment. Anything. They say, no, I want to go for enjoyment, picnic. I like it, so I have free will. I can go there. But actually, the desire to go and enjoy in that way is also because of modes he is being influenced by. So he's not actually choosing, but soul is not choosing. The modes are influencing him because the modes only is choosing those activities. So he is going for all different activities.
Okay, good. Somebody wants to add anything to this? Okay, Arjun Prabhu.
In mode of goodness, one can see the things as they are. So first to utilize something means knowledge has to, if someone wants to work with knowledge, he has to see the things as it is. So he gains the knowledge in mode of goodness, then he can see the things as they are, and then he can choose what I should do or what I should not do. In mode of passion and ignorance, he is dragged downwards. Like in mode of passion, he is more oriented towards work, passion, lust, greed, name, fame. So these are the driving factor. Knowledge is not a driving factor. These are vasanas. And in mode of ignorance, he has no knowledge, ajnana. Means he does totally opposite. What is knowledge? Totally opposite. So in mode of passion and ignorance, he does not have choice. Only in mode of goodness, he has knowledge, and so he can choose.
Okay, good points. So just like
जीव कृष्ण भूलिया जीव भोगवांचे करे निकटस्थ माया करे जपटे वगैरह. So when he chose to forget Krishna, then Maya catches him.
right.
Still that Maya modes cannot catch. So
Right.
he desired to enjoy separately from Krishna.
Right. So usually we give this example. So just like there is a chronic drunkard addicted to drinking wine. So you place a bottle of wine in front of him. So does he have free will or no? Technically he has. He has. Free will is always there. But what will he do? Yes, so he will drink because he is habituated to drinking. Why is habituated? So who forces him to drink? Yes, the tamogun. So even though the free will is technically there, but even that free will is influenced by the lower modes. And that is how he becomes totally controlled by the modes. So as Bhagavad Prabhu has rightly said, and Arjunesha Prabhu also, that the free will can be exercised only on the platform of knowledge. So only when there is knowledge, then only one can understand, okay, this is good, this is bad. So then one discriminates, then one has a choice. Otherwise, persons influenced by lower modes of tamagun and rajagun, even though they may say, well, I have so much choice. I can drink this brand of wine or that brand of whiskey. But what is the difference between wine, whiskey and beer and what is the difference? As Srila Prabhupada gives the famous example of dry stool and wet stool. So what is the big difference? So no difference. So therefore, it is basically all sense gratification. And he is forced by the lower modes to engage in that sense gratification. That is why in the conditional life, especially influenced by Rajagun and Tamagun, fully controlled, he is forced. That is how the jiva is totally bound in material existence. And thus, he performs all types of activities. And of course, even Sattvagun is binding. So even on Sattvagun, though he can discriminate between pious and impious activities, but he performs pious activities that also lead to bondage. So in that sense, the influence of three modes is simply binding. And therefore, in the next verse he is saying, we are going to 5.11.6. The materialistic mind covering the living entity's soul carries it to different species of life. This is called continued material existence. Due to the mind, the living entity suffers or enjoys material distress and happiness. Being thus illusion, the mind further creates pious and impious activities and their karma, and thus the soul becomes conditioned. So this is how the modes act on the mind. And then because of that, one performs pious activities, impious activities, then one gets distress, so-called happiness. It's not real happiness. And in this way, conditional life continues. And that is why the influence of the three modes is essentially on the minds. And therefore in this purport also Prabhupada is writing, mental activities under the influence of material nature cause happiness and distress within the material worlds. Being covered by illusion, the living entity eternally continues conditioned life under different designations. Such living entities are known as Nitya Baddha, eternally conditioned. On the whole, the mind is the cause of conditional life. So this mind is the big culprit. Therefore, one has to be very careful with the minds. Therefore, the entire yogic process is meant to control the mind and the senses. If the mind is controlled, senses are automatically controlled, and therefore the soul is saved from the reactions of pious and impious activity. If the mind is engaged with the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, Savai Mana Krishna Padaravindayo, the senses are automatically engaged in the Lord's service. When the mind and senses are engaged in devotional service, the living entity naturally becomes Krishna conscious. As soon as one always thinks of Krishna, he becomes a perfect yogi. Yogina api sarvesham. So this is how the three modes are acting on the mind. And in the next verse again, Jad Bharat is again repeating this point actually. The mind makes the living entity within this material world wander through different species of life, and thus the living entity experiences mundane affairs in different forms as human being, demigod, fat person, skinny person, so forth. Learned scholars say that bodily appearance, bondage, liberation are caused by the mind. So in this purport Prabhupada writes, just as the mind is the cause of bondage, it can also be the cause of liberation. The mind is described here as para, avara. Para means transcendental, avara means material. When the mind is engaged in the Lord's service, Savai Mana Krishna Padaravindayo, it is called para, transcendental. When the mind is engaged in material sense gratification, it is called as avara or material. At the present moment in our conditioned state, our mind is fully absorbed in material sense gratification, but it can be purified and brought to its original Krishna consciousness by the process of devotional service. Savai Mana Krishna Padaravindayo. Okay? So these are some important points.
Prabhuji, query?
Just 1 second, we'll read one more verse. In the next verse, Jad Bharat is giving a nice analogy. Okay, somebody read the next translation, 8th verse.
When the living entity's mind becomes absorbed in the sense gratification of the material world, it brings about his conditioned life and suffering within the material situation. However, when the mind becomes unattached to material enjoyment, it becomes the cause of liberation. When the flame in a lamp burns the wick improperly, the lamp is blackened. But when the lamp is filled with ghee and is burning properly, there is bright illumination. Similarly, when the mind is absorbed in material sense gratification, it causes suffering. And when it detached from material sense gratification, it brings about the original brightness of Krishna consciousness.
Okay, so good analogy. So you have seen the lamps with the glass lantern. So usually in villages they use. So when there is a good amount of oil and the wick is burning properly, there is no wind, then the glass doesn't become blackened. But if it is not burning properly, it becomes black. So similarly, when the mind is absorbed in material sense gratification, it causes suffering. And when detached, it brings about the original brightness of Krishna consciousness. Soul is also bright. And therefore in this purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, it is therefore concluded that the mind is the cause of material existence and liberation also. Everyone is suffering in this material world because of the mind. It is therefore proper to train the mind or to cleanse the mind from material attachment and engage it fully in the Lord's service. This is called spiritual engagement. Okay, so what's the question?
Prabhuji, I wanted to understand that how does the willpower play a role and how can I reconcile these two, like willpower with mind, Prabhuji?
Yes, so willpower is what?
कुछ करने की बहुत तीव्र इच्छा.
Okay, that is your Hindi translation. But
Intense desire.
But who is controlling this willpower?
Mind only.
Huh?
Mind only, yes. Under the influence of the modes.
Intelligence.
Yes, intelligence. So there is intelligence. Discrimination is function of the intelligence, isn't it?
Yes.
So this determination, dhruti, determination is a function of the intelligence. And so if the intelligence is strong, then it can control the mind. But if the intelligence is weak, then the mind takes over. The famous example of the chariot. So if the driver is strong, he can control the reins of the horses. If the driver is weak, then he cannot control. Then the senses and the mind will take wherever they want. So that determination comes from Krishna conscious intelligence.
Our intelligence is Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, no but?
Yes. So our intelligence is supposed to be influenced by Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Yes. So therefore, that is the most important and powerful way to control the mind. So that is told by Jad Bharat in the last verse of the same chapter. So if you go to 5th canto, 11th chapter, 17th verse, there Jad Bharat is telling, there he talks about two things to control the mind. One is neglect, upeksha, and the second is Gurur Hare Charana Upasana Astra. So this is the astra. So this is the weapon to control the mind. Gurur Hare Charana Upasana Astra. So this is the astra. So worshipping the lotus feet or following the instructions of Guru and Krishna.
Prabhu, a question.
So the intelligence is supposed to be influenced by the instructions of Guru and Krishna. So basically Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. So when the intelligence is strong with these instructions, then even though the mind under the influence of modes says so many things, but the intelligence will say, no, this is instruction of Guru and Krishna, so I will not do like this. To give a simple example, so when one wants to get up in the morning, and the mind says, no, go to sleep. So who is saying that? Tamogun. The mind influenced by Tamogun says, go to sleep. Or for that matter, anything. So when one wants to do some Krishna conscious activity, if the mind is influenced by lower modes, then the mind will say, no, don't do this, do something else. Don't go to Bhagavatam class, it's boring. So that is what the mind influenced by Rajagun and Tamagun will say. But if the intelligence is strong, strengthened by the instructions of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, then intelligence will say, no. Srila Prabhupada and the Guru has given instruction that I must go for Mangalarti, I must go for Bhagavatam class. Then if intelligence is strong, then it neglects the instruction of the mind. And then one will go. So that is the relationship between intelligence and the mind. So that's the whole purpose of repeatedly hearing. And that is what in that purport Srila Prabhupada is writing. Okay, let's read that purport. Okay, the last verse, 5:11, 17. This one only, no? 17. Okay, read. Translation purport.
This uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. Although it is not factual, it is very strong. It covers the constitutional position of the soul. O King, please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Do this with great care. Purport. There is one easy weapon with which the mind can be conquered. Neglect. The mind is always telling us to do this or that. Therefore, we should be very expert in disobeying the mind's orders.
Expert in disobeying.
Gradually, the mind should be trained to obey the orders of the soul. It is not that one should obey the orders of the mind. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that to control the mind, one should beat it with shoes many times just before awakening and again before going to sleep. In this way, one can control the mind.
So what is this beating? What is this beating? What is this beating? Beating of the mind with shoes and broomstick? So how do we reinforce?
Disobey.
Yes, hearing.
And here,
So therefore Srila Prabhupada has given us at least one class in the morning, one class in the evening. So this is beating of the mind. So the mind is told, so whichever class we hear, we are told, do this, don't do this. Do this, don't do this. Do this, don't do this. Like, at least I am here since the last 2 days, and in the morning, every morning we are hearing the same thing. This only we are hearing every morning. Same thing. Yesterday also we heard the same thing, today also we heard the same thing. Simple repetition only. There was practically nothing different. So this is called beating. Same thing, here, again. Tendency is to forget. So this is the beating. So therefore Srila Prabhupada was very particular about these classes. Practically no other sampradaya, and what to speak of other spiritual organizations, have given so much emphasis on hearing the Shastra as Srila Prabhupada did. So because this is the beating of the mind. So therefore Srila Prabhupada was very particular. I think the Shrutigiri Prabhu also said, he told some pastimes, right? Of how Srila Prabhupada, he would be looking who's there in class, who's not there in class. If somebody was not there, he would call. So I remember he told that pastime, right, of I think it was Nandakumar Prabhu, who was his personal servant. He asked him, why were you not there for class? So he said, I was cutting fruit. You don't know that, eh? So Srila Prabhupada, anyone can cut fruit. What's the big deal? You have to spend so much time to cut fruit. So Srila Prabhupada was very emphatic on this point. And why? Because this is the beating of the mind. If we don't hear and we think, I know all these things, why to hear? Yesterday also same thing, today also same thing, tomorrow also same thing. Why should I keep hearing the same thing? So, but if we don't do this beating of the mind, then the mind will take over. The mind influenced by the modes will take over. Then the discriminatory power will be lost. That is why this beating is required. Please continue.
This is the instruction of the all Shastras. If one does not do so, one is doomed to follow the dictations of the mind. Another bona fide process is to abide strictly by the orders of the spiritual master and engage in the Lord's service. Then the mind will be automatically conformed. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed Srila Rupa Goswami, Brahmand Bhanibe Krono Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasad Paye Bhakta Lata Beach. When one receives the seed of devotional service by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's real life begins. If one abides by the orders of the spiritual master, by grace of Krishna, he is freed from the service to the mind.
That is the only way to be freed from the service to the mind. See the precise use of words. If one abides by the orders of the spiritual master, what happens? He gets the grace of Krishna. Then by the grace of Krishna, he is freed from service to the mind. Because ultimately who can control the mind? Only Krishna can control. Because Arjuna said, how powerful is the mind? More than the raging winds. Raging winds. Not ordinary wind, like in cyclone, raging winds. Mind is more difficult to control than that. So who can control? Who can control the wind? Only Krishna can control. And so the mind is worse than that. So who can control? Only Krishna can control. But when will Krishna control? When we follow the instructions of the Guru and please the Guru, then Krishna's mercy is attracted and then Krishna controls the mind. That is the process. Otherwise, mind is so powerful, influenced by three modes. What are these three modes? Energy of the Lord, external energy of the Lord. So very powerful. And we all have enough experience of this, correct? Even as we are trying to become devotees, so many times the mind tricks us, the mind takes us in the wrong direction, so many things keep happening. And therefore, we have to attract the grace of Krishna. That's the only way.
Prabhuji, you were mentioning that we have to again and again hear so that that impressions will be formed on the mind. So
Yes.
when advertisement people they do hit and hammer, ye le lo, ye le lo, ye le lo. Every time there is hit and hammer and that person will buy something then. So for us also again and again we are hearing same thing, that impressions are forming onto our consciousness and then that's how we get purified.
Exactly. Yes, so the advertisement industry also knows the function of the minds. So that is why they make use of the same principle. Again and again, same thing again and again. So then things get reinforced. So the same principle applies. The same principle. So that is why one has to hear every day, again and again, same thing one has to keep hearing. Because since time immemorial, the mind has been influenced by the lower modes and we have so many impressions, materialistic impressions. And so therefore, to become free from the influence of the mind is not so easy at all. Very difficult. That is why the beating is required. So if one is not very diligent about the beating, then the mind will remain as it is. Then the mind will take us on the wrong paths.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Prabhu, intelligence has such a superior function to control the mind, but then why is intelligence born of the material mode of passion of false ego?
So what's the question?
So intelligence has such an important function to control the mind itself. Then why is intelligence stated to be born of the mode of passion or the mode of the false ego?
Okay, so why is intelligence born out of the mode of passion and mind is born out of the mode of goodness?
Yes, Prabhu, that one is a basic
Okay, so
question.
what's the answer? I think so all of you have already studied in the third canto. What is the answer to that?
Has a tendency to be absorbed in something, so that is to stay, that is the sattva gun. And intelligence means it will create activities through karma and riyas and Gyanendriya. So that is about Kriya Shakti. That way it is that. But I think what you are telling here is intelligence which is coming from Guru Sadhu Shastra, which is not this one in that sense.
Yes, but that point is correct. So the mind has a tendency to remain absorbed in something. So therefore it is said to be born of the mode of goodness. That means it can be influenced by mode of goodness. It can be influenced by mode of goodness and it can be absorbed in either something good or something bad. What? Okay, you can say that. Right. Yes, so basically, yes. So the mode of goodness is influencing the mind. Yes, Prabhu.
So if we see Srila Prabhupada disciple life, this is the real manifestation of following the Guru and Krishna. So Prabhuji, my question is that we are coming in the bona fide Guru Shishya Sampradaya, but we are still staggering, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada has given all the instruction of morning program, everything. So my question is, what about the people? They are not coming in the proper Sampradaya, but they are still following them. Many Sampradaya are there. So, and they are giving such a idea, such a presentation that people also got influence, other people, and they are trying to follow them. So what about them? Because mind, whatever we discuss, and that is the reality. So what is their destination? What is their outcome? If they are not following the bona fide Guru Shishya Sampradaya, they are not engaged in the pure devotion to Lord. So what is the...
So that was the question which Arjuna asked in the first verse of the 17th chapter. First verse of the 17th chapter. That was Arjuna's question. Exactly same question what you asked, that Arjuna also asked. Bhagavad Gita 17th chapter, first verse. Hey, show what is... Open. Read.
Hare Krishna. Arjuna, translation. Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principle of scripture but worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance?
Same question, right? Same thing. So then later on Krishna explains worship in the three modes. So those who are in the mode of goodness, they worship devatas. Those who are in the mode of passion, they worship ghosts and spirits. And those who are in the mode of ignorance, they worship some powerful people. So like that, based upon the faith which is influencing their consciousness, they worship different people, and then the destination will be accordingly. Yanti deva vrata devan, pitrin yanti pitrivata. So like that. So based upon what they worship, then they will get their respective destinations. So therefore all these apasampradayas, concoctions, then it is all basically in the mode of passion and ignorance. So then they will get lower destinations essentially. So there is, it's not even in sattva, it is all concoctions. So essentially it is rajas and tamas. Okay? But because they are influenced by rajogun and tamogun, therefore they have faith in such worship. Therefore, even if somebody is worshipping a film star, he will say, "Ar mere liye ye Bhagwan hai." He has so much faith. Why? Why he has that faith? Lower modes. So the modes influence the person, influence the consciousness, and the person develops that sort of faith. Therefore we find that people who are worshipping some person, some devata, they are fixed, correct? They have faith. Especially as far as devatas are concerned, Krishna has already said in the 7th chapter, who gives the faith? Yes, Krishna only gives the faith to the worshipper, to worship that type of, devata. So ultimately it's because of the influence of modes. So therefore they have that firm faith in that type of worship, and they think that that is correct. They have no doubt about it. It is because of the influence of the modes. ठीक है ना? Yes.
Discuss the two methods of controlling the mind. One is the neglect and then beating, like that. So also I think Raghunath Das Goswami in Mana Shiksha speak about the cajoling the mind, that please don't do like this. So can you a little bit elaborate on that?
Yes, that is correct. So so that is also accepted method. So this is giving instructions to the mind. Bhaja Hure Mana Shri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charana Aravindare. So he is giving instructions to his mind. So that is also one of the ways. But it falls within that same category of giving instructions. So basically instructions of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, that is what we are giving to the mind. So we are giving instructions to the mind, please do like this, please don't do like this. So basically there are instructions coming from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. So that is what we are telling the mind. So that is what we are hearing.
So beating and cajoling is different, or it's same, like
Of course, beating is chastisement, cajoling is trying to pursue the mind. Prem se. I don't know. As far as my understanding goes, training is part of the discipline. Where is your reference? What Krishna says? Huh? Did Prabhupada translate those two words like that? Abhyas and Vairagya, did he translate as training and discipline? No, my question is, you are saying Abhyas is training and Vairagya is discipline. Did any of the Acharyas translate those two words like that? Why are you doing concoction?
What he is saying is that beating is hearing someone else's class, and cajoling is like you hear own class, means which is following the Guru Sadhu Shastra. It's like you are training, like Mana Shiksha, so many acharyas have written.
Okay, we accept the point that yes, so beating is, we are beating with Guru's instructions, and cajoling is but ultimately it is the same instructions only. It is the same instructions. Okay, one thing is, whether it is somebody else saying or I am saying, it is the same thing. Ultimately it is the same thing. So, in any case, okay, so now since you brought up this verse, so what is the abhyas? What is that abhyas?
Prabhupada writes that abhyas, that he has to practice his spiritual practices, abhyasa, where his mind can be engaged. Like Savai Mana Krishna Padaravi means the positive engagement to the mind.
Okay, now you open that verse and you see what Prabhupada has written. 6th chapter, verse number 35. Yes. Read the translation and then you read.
Lord Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. The difficulty of controlling the obstinate mind as expressed by Arjuna is accepted by the personality of Godhead. But at the same time he suggests that by practice and detachment it is possible. What is that practice? In the present age, no one can absorb strict rules and regulations of placing oneself in the sacred place, focusing mind on super soul, restraining the senses and mind, observing celibacy, remaining alone, etc. By the practice of Krishna consciousness, however, one engages in 9 types of devotional service to the Lord. The first and foremost of such devotional engagement is hearing about Krishna.
Yes, so that is the abhyas. The first and foremost is hearing about Krishna. Go ahead.
This is the very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from the Krishna. By detaching the mind from activities not devoted to the Lord, one can very easily learn Vairagya. Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of the mind in spirit.
Okay, so that is the abhyas. The abhyas is hearing. So again the same thing. So that is what we need to hear. We need to hear the instructions. Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So that is the abhyas. So same thing. So this abhyas, here also it is hearing, there also it is the instructions of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. So basically this is the abhyas that is required. The practice, the constant practice is to hear and of course to put into practice what one hears. So this is the constant practice that is required, and Srila Prabhupada is saying this is a very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. So therefore Srila Prabhupada has laid great emphasis on this process of hearing, and so therefore at least the minimum quota of hearing must be there. And of course after hearing then one has to try and apply what one hears. But this is the abhyas. This is the constant practice that one needs to do. And then when the practice is there, then the Vairagya will develop. Yes,
here it is said that the more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything.
Attraction and detachment.
So now the hearing itself is abhyas, and from that abhyas only comes detachment. Then why Lord mentions Vairagya also? Abhyasena to kaunte Vairagya cha grihyate. So Vairagya is anyway going to come by abhyas. So then why 2 limbs are described by Lord? You to abhyas also and then detachment also. Anyway it will come by abhyas naturally.
So you find throughout the Shastra, both the positive and the negative aspects are always told together. Because the negative aspect also has to be practiced to some extent. So just like if one says, by chanting the holy names, automatically one will become detached. Automatically one will become detached from all the sinful activities. Then why 4 regulative principles are told separately? Correct? If one is chanting, one will get purified, then automatically one will give up sinful activities, correct? But still 4 regulative principles are told separately along with the chanting. And for the same reason, Smartavya Satam Vishnu, Vismartavya na Jatuchit. So, what is not or Anukulyasa Sankalpa, Pratikulyasa Varjanam. So, everywhere you find both the positive and negative aspects are told simultaneously. To explain this, Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice simple example. So, he says, just like somebody is doing business and he has got all information how his business can flourish, how he can get profit, all that he has learnt and is doing it. But he has not learnt what could be the causes of incurring loss. What could be the risk factors in the business. He has not learnt that. Then what will happen? On one hand he will get profit, and on the other hand he will lose. That is what will happen. So therefore both have to go simultaneously. So therefore, and we give the same example. So just like if one is chanting Hare Krishna and at the same time performing sinful activities, what it's like? Yes, lighting fire and pouring water. So therefore both positive and negative aspects are told simultaneously. So even though yes, hearing is definitely very powerful, but at the same time, and the hearing itself or the positive devotional activities itself will definitely bring about vairagya, but at the same time, because that may not be so powerful, so at the same time one has to practice some detachment also. One has to practice giving up the sense gratification. So both have to go on simultaneously. So therefore Krishna is telling both. See?
Treatment and the diet.
Yes.
Both are.
Yes, correct. He is giving this out. Something like curing a disease by expert treatment, appropriate diet. Hearing of the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is therefore expert treatment for the mad mind. And eating the food stuff offered to Krishna is the appropriate diet for the suffering. This is a good example. Prabhupada himself is. So just like if somebody is taking medicine but one is not following the diet, will the medicine work? No, it doesn't work. So both have to go simultaneously. Yes.
Treatment should continue. Like that power is there, that the strength we say na, that paap ko chhod nahi rahe to naam, no, holy name you chant.
Correct.
So that because the power is there for this, it is not the other way around that I do vairagya only.
Correct, that is true. So one has to continue the process any case. The vairagya will gradually develop, but then it will be very slow, because it's like lighting the fire, putting water. So the result will be very slow. So if one is simultaneously practicing the don'ts, then it will be more powerful. Okay. So this is all about the three modes acting on the mind.
In Nectar of Devotion also, no, Srila Prabhupada says that those who have a natural taste for understanding books like Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, devotion service is very easy. Then those who are only they want only mental speculation and some argumentative process, because there he is saying that advancement in Krishna consciousness is not based on our own intellectual abilities, but it is based on our taste for hearing Krishna Katha. That's what Prabhupada says over there.
Okay.
It was just a comment.
So what's the question?
No, this was a comment, Prabhuji.
Okay, fine. That's correct. So I'm reading a part of the purport to the 12th verse, 5:11:12. 5:11. Sorry for troubling you, jumping from Bhagavad Gita to Bhagavatam. But this is what we keep doing all the time.
But anyways, we are jumping from one species to another. It is better to jump from Bhagavad Gita to Bhagavatam. I'm talking about myself.
Okay, so in the purport, Prabhupada is writing the Nitya Baddhas, go down. The Nitya Baddhas can become liberated. Yes, the Nitya Baddhas can become liberated by controlling the mind, because the cause of conditioned life is the mind. When the mind is trained, so you can see how much emphasis is given to the mind. So that's the whole business. Yoga means controlling the mind. When the mind is trained and the soul is not under the mind's control, the soul can be liberated even in this material world. Right. So even while living in the material world, if one is not obeying the dictations of the mind, which is giving all types of materialistic ideas, so then one can be liberated even while being in this material world. So when it is liberated, one is called as Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta knows how he has become conditioned. How he has become conditioned? Because of the mind. So he knows that this mind has caused trouble to me. Therefore now I must neglect this materialistic mind. So he knows that. Therefore he tries to purify himself and return on back to Godhead. The eternally conditioned soul is eternally conditioned because he is controlled by the mind. Because he is controlled by the mind. So therefore, as sadhakas, this should be our constant contemplation. What is my mind saying? Because the mind is constantly speaking, correct? The mind is active 24 hours. Of course, at night we have no control over the mind. But at least in the awakened state, we need to think, what is the mind saying? Am I simply obeying instructions of mind, or am I thinking what the mind is saying? Is it correct or wrong? So the eternally conditioned soul is eternally conditioned because he is controlled by the mind. The conditioned state and the liberated state are compared to sleeping, unconscious state and the awakened state. So those are sleeping and unconscious are eternally conditioned. But those who are awake understand that eternally part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Therefore, even in this material world, they engage in Krishna's service, as confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami, Iha Yasya Hare Dasye. If one takes to Krishna's service, is liberated, even though he appears to be a conditioned soul within the material world. Jivan Mukta So Uchate. In any condition, one is considered liberated if his only business is to serve Krishna. ठीक है? Okay, now let's get back to the, which canto we are on? After some time we'll forget only that. We are supposed to go to 11th canto. 11th canto, 25th chapter. So which verse are we on?
The 6th verse, Prabhuji, have to start now.
Okay, 6th is done. The combination of the three modes leads to this mentality of I and mine. And then the next thing is the ordinary transactions of this world, which are carried out through agency of the mind, the objects of perception, the senses, the vital layers of the physical body are all based on the combination of the modes. Actually, there was another verse in that same 5th canto, 11th chapter. We didn't read that. But there, Jad Bharat is explaining that how the functions of the mind, they are carried out through the mind's paraphernalia, which are, yes, basically the senses and the life airs. So that is how the mind acts. So therefore, everything becomes influenced by the mind. Now in this purport, they write, 6th verse purport. Yes, this is a nice purport. The illusory concept of I and mine occurs by the mixture of the three modes of nature. A person in goodness may feel, I am peaceful. One in passion may think, I am lusty. And one in ignorance may think, I am angry. Similarly, one may think of my peace, my lust, or my anger. One completely absorbed in the mentality of being peaceful could not work in the material world. He would lack any impulse to perform activity. Similarly, one absorbed in lust would be blinded without at least a tinge of peacefulness or restraint. One overwhelmed with anger could not function properly in the material world without the mixture of other qualities. Thus we find that a material mode does not occur in a pure isolated form, but rather is mixed with other modes, thereby making possible normal functioning within this world. Ultimately, one should think, I am eternal servant of Lord and my only possession is loving service to the Lord. This is the pure state of consciousness. Okay, so very nicely he is explaining that why there is mixture. So in the material world, the pure state of the modes is not possible. And that would actually be a hindrance in one's functioning in this world. So if one is only in sattva within this material world, the material sattva, then one would not have any impetus to do any work. At least one's prescribed duties one has to do while living in this world. And similarly, one is only influenced by passion, then he'll be only thinking about sense gratification, too much of lust, enjoying mentality. Then that also will become very difficult for him to function. Without some little bit of peacefulness, some sattva has to be there. So similarly, all the time if one is angry, very difficult to function. So therefore, there's always a mix. And somebody is said to be in the mode of goodness, passion or ignorance depending upon which mode is prominent. But the effects of the other modes are also always present. And so in the material world, there is always a combination of the three modes. And we already discussed this point yesterday, that there is competition amongst the modes for supremacy. So therefore, if we want to remain at least in sattva for most of the time, then what is required? Two things. We discussed from Prabhupada's purport. Yes, constant practice and determination. That is what is required.
These modes are fighting among each other. But why they are fighting? One thing is to make us active. But my question is why they are fighting? Why they are envious of each other, or why means it's a simply official way of fighting, or like two people fight, they have some desire to attain something. But who is behind them? There are some modes, somebody is behind. So they have some problem with themselves or what? Or they are fighting because they want to fulfill our desire. Like a person wants to feel lusty, then the passion will fight with goodness. That's why it's fighting, or why they are fighting?
Good question. What do you think?
Free will.
Now you have done all Bhaktivedanta, you have done what? You some understanding you must. Okay, somebody else wants to answer why they are fighting.
Online.
Time factor. Time is the reason, Prabhu. Time is the reason. Time. Kal.
Time.
So it is basically our past karma, tendencies of bija and kuta, which are being manifested, and the tendencies are overcoming. That is what fighting we can interpret.
Okay, so based upon the past desires. Okay, fine. Somebody else wants to say?
Durga Devi is behind the three modes.
Who's behind?
Durga Devi.
Durga
Devi. In charge. And she makes it like that so that the living entity becomes miserable and understand that this is not his place.
Correct. That is also correct. Somebody else wants to say?
There are many desires. Else what their mind is flipping from one desire to another, from passion to ignorance. Ignorance to goodness. In morning it is in goodness. In afternoon it is in passion. In the night it is in ignorance. So according to the desire, mind modes will act.
Okay, so based on desire.
Dead elements.
Let us go to that verse 14:10 Bhagavad Gita.
Because modes of fighting because of material nature itself is dynamic and constantly changing, no? And
Yes.
that is why Srimad Bhagavatam is telling, to fight it out, we have to take shelter of Krishna by Shravanam and Kirtanam and then rising about his struggle.
Okay, let's read what Prabhupada writes. Bhagavad Gita 14 chapter 10th verse. Read.
Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance. O son of Bharata, Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy. When the mode of passion is prominent, the mode of goodness and the mode of ignorance are defeated. When the mode of goodness is prominent, passion and ignorance are defeated. And when mode of ignorance is prominent, passion and goodness are defeated. This competition is always going on. Therefore, one who is actually intent on advancing in Krishna consciousness has to transcend these three modes. The prominence of some certain mode of nature is manifested in one's dealings, in his activities, in eating, etc. All this will be explained in later chapters. But if one wants, he can develop by practice the mode of goodness and thus defeat the mode of ignorance and passion. One can similarly develop the mode of passion and defeat goodness and ignorance, or one can develop the mode of ignorance and defeat goodness and passion. Although there are these three modes of material nature, if one is determined, he can be blessed by mode of goodness, and by transcending the mode of goodness, he can be situated in pure goodness, which is called Vasudeva state, a state in which one can understand the science of God. By the manifestation of particular activities, it can be understood in what mode of nature one is situated.
You got an answer? So why is the competition going on?
That mode is prominent.
So how is it prominent?
As Prabhupada mentions that according to his dealings, activity, it is manifested.
So it is based on whom?
Person means.
Yes, it is based on the person.
And also environment, like morning time, mode of goodness is prominent. So then other will be defeated.
Yes, although that also will come to that discussion also. But the important point is, as you can see, Prabhupada is writing, but if one wants, that means it is based on one's own desire.
Our choice.
Yes, if one wants. And that is why Krishna is describing all that. That's why Prabhupada is writing. This will be explained in later chapters. So therefore, Krishna is describing all that. Food in the different modes, action in different modes, knowledge in three modes. That is why Krishna is describing. And we have the choice what to do. It is my choice. So, see, the modes are inactive. The modes are material.
No, modes are moved by time, na Prabhuji.
No, but see, material nature by itself is inert. Material nature is dead. Material nature by itself cannot function. So, now how the material modes function? Of course, Krishna has already said, 9th chapter, 10th verse, what? Mayadhyakshena prakriti suvite sacharacharam. So, the three modes cannot function on one's own. Chayeva yasya bhuvanani bibarti Durga. Durga is only what? Chaya. She is not independent. So there is Supreme Lord. We have that famous photo in the Bhagavad Gita. There are those three ladies with the strings. And who is above those three ladies? Krishna is there. So those three ladies are not independent. They are controlled. So therefore, now, relationship between Jiva, Paramatma and three modes. You know this section, right? This,
Jeev, Jagat, Jagadishwar.
Correct. So, what is the relation between the three?
Jiva, he desires, and then Paramatma sanctions, and material energy facilitates.
Correct. So that is the way the three modes function. So therefore, when the Jiva desires, I want to eat passionate foods. Oh, why he desires? Why does he desire? Yes, basically that's what, he's habituated. He is habituated. So, Therefore, when the jiva desires, I want to eat this type of food, I want to eat this passionate food, then when the desire comes, then the Lord sanctions. Material nature acts according to that. So then the mode of passion will rise. So even if there's a sattvic person, so like even for all of us, even as devotees, even for all of us. So suppose I see nice hot pakoras on the railway station and I'm traveling alone. No, don't get into those details now. So, if one sees, now the mind has impressions of past experience with the pakoras. So now what the mind will say? Go, take. Nobody is watching. So now, if my intelligence, Krishna conscious intelligence is not strong, and then I allow the desire to overcome me, then I am allowing the mode of passion to rise. So then mode of passion will increase. Then when mode of passion increases, sattva and rajas will. Of course, rajas and tamas are usually together only. Can't make big difference. But then rajas and tamas rise, sattva will go down. But it is based on what? My desire. So therefore, it all begins with my desire. So the mind, because of the past impressions, the mind has all these desires. Since time immemorial, so many desires the mind has. And that's what we read, Prabhupada is writing in that purport. The mind is always telling, do this, do that, enjoy this, enjoy that. The mind is always telling. And if one does not have that Krishna conscious intelligence, then one becomes victim of the mind's dictations. Then automatically rajas and tamas will increase. When rajas and tamas increases, sattva will come down. So this is what happens in constantly between the fight of the Devatas and the Asuras. Yes, this is what happens. That may be okay, the Kala Shakti is facilitating, but ultimately it is based upon the desires.
Desire is there, then mode comes.
Yes.
Not that mode has caused the desire.
Yes. First the beginning is with the desire. The beginning is with the desire.
Here the question was asked, why does Lord partial to demons? Why he is helping demigods? So then the Sukadeva Goswami says, there is a time for demons to win, there is a time for devotees to win.
So what is that time?
So
what is that time?
So, means when the goodness flourishes,
exactly,
demigods win.
Yes. When the goodness flourishes, devatas win. When the goodness reduces, devatas lose. And then the asuras win. But then the question to be asked is, why the sattva in devatas reduces? Now we know that past time. So why the sattva of the devatas reduced?
Because they become means material enjoyment, sense gratification.
Because of material enjoyment, what happened?
Then they commit mistakes.
Yes, they commit mistake, offense to Brihaspati. So that is because Indra was absorbed in a sense gratification. That is mode of passion. So because of the mode of passion, sattva reduced. Then because sattva reduced, discrimination lost. Discrimination lost, he could not act properly when Brihaspati came. Then because of that, yes. But what is the root cause? Desire. The root cause is desire of the jiva.
So when Lord is helping demigods,
So that is what? The Lord is not helping devatas or asuras. The Lord takes side with sattva gun. So wherever sattva is more, the Lord will take sides because the Lord likes sattva. So therefore when the devatas, their passion increases, sattva reduces, then Lord does not take side. That's why they lose, na? Otherwise why they lose? So when they act properly in sattva, then the Lord will take sides. But that the Lord will do for anyone. So it is not the partiality of the Lord.
My question is, when demons win over devatas, that time also, what is going ahead means, or superior is ignorance or passion, because demons are winning over devatas. So even though devatas are doing some mistakes, they are still in goodness, means there is some mentality is there.
No, but at that point of time, because of the mistake, the rajas and tamas has increased and sattva has reduced.
That's why they have won.
So because here sattva is reduced, so therefore the Lord does not take their side. When Lord does not give them strength, then they lose. That is how it works.
And then Lord will give some procedure to follow to increase their sattva, and so they will help.
Yes. So therefore in that same pastime what is told? These people disobeyed or disrespected Brihaspati, and at the same time what the asuras did? They nicely served their spiritual master Shukracharya. So that is how their sattva increased, by serving their spiritual master. That is how it works. So therefore the Lord is not partial. It is all based upon one's own desires, one's own actions. So therefore in that same discussion, in the same purports, the other example also is given. So of a teacher, the teacher and the student. That example also Prabhupada gives. So a teacher may appear to be more partial to a particular student. But it is not partiality. Why the teacher is appearing to be partial to that particular student? Yes, because he is more eager to learn. So that eagerness to learn is whose problem? The student. It is based on his desire. So if the student has desire to learn, then teacher will reciprocate. So it's only a point of reciprocation. Everything is reciprocal. Yeyatamam prapadyante. So therefore, the root cause of everything that happens in this material world is jiva's desire. And I'm sure we all know that well-known pastime of that devotee who on the morning walk, you know that pastime, right? Who ran up to Srila Prabhupada and said, what is the one most important thing in devotional service? And Prabhupada said, desire. That's all. So everything is based upon that desire. So because of my desire, then I am attracted to sense gratification, mode of passion increases, sattva reduces, then I am not empowered. It's all my problem. I can't blame anyone else. Therefore in this world, I cannot blame anyone else for what I am undergoing. It is all based on my own desires. I cannot blame the modes, I cannot blame the Supreme Lord, I cannot blame anyone else. The only person to blame is myself. That is why only in ignorance one gets into this blame game. So when one gets into this blame game, it simply shows ignorance. That's all. One who has understood this philosophy will never get into this blame game. So he will understand, Atma Kritam Vipakam, whatever is happening is due to my own past misdeeds. At least that's the way one looks at it. Of course one has to do the needful, that's the other part of it. But essentially that's the point. Somebody is trying to say something.
One clarification. First of all, very nicely emphasized on the reason is our own self for the thing. If one wants, he can increase the mode of goodness. So, as we were discussing that the demons were serving their spiritual master and their sattva increased. So, how to understand this? Because demons, spiritual master Shukracharya, he is himself on the adharma side. So, serving a adharmi, how does the sattva increase? And Krishna
No,
also says that
the
among the rishis,
principle.
I am.
Yes, Krishna also says among the Munis, I think, right? Kavi, yeah, right. Among the Kavis, I am Shukracharya.
Among the
Yes.
wise, among the wise.
Among the wise, okay.
Among clever people, clever people.
So basically the point is the principle of serving, the principle of submission, obedience, serving, that increases the sattva. So he is their spiritual master in whatever capacity. And so therefore, because of that principle, the principle of submission and service, that increases the sattva.
And why Krishna says that I am among the wise, I am.
Yes, because Shukracharya is a very intelligent person. He is not a fool. Yes, he knows everything. He is a very intelligent person. But somehow he is taking side of the demons and acts sometimes funnily. But essentially he is an intelligent person.
Thank you.
Holy name's glory.
Right. Bali Maharaj, na? He knows everything. Okay, chalo. Okay, time for break.
Like this?
How was that?
Can we conclude like this? Only pure devotees can control all three modes.
We will come to that discussion. How to transcend the modes will come to that discussion. Now we are still within the modes and how the modes are fighting and why they are fighting. So that is the discussion. Okay, read. Okay, we'll read one purport.
This is 1:15, 25, 26. 1:15, 25, 26.
1:15, 25, 26.
Why there is disparity in this world? So same lording over mentality basically. Prabhupada writes that.
20?
25, 26.
Okay.
That eating fish, that one.
Bigger
So in the material world, the struggle for existence and survival of fittest are lost because of the material world. There is a disparity between the conditioned souls due to everyone's desire to lord over the material resources. This very mentality of lording it over material nature is the root cause of conditional life. And to give facility to such imitation lords, the illusory energy of Lord has created a disparity between the conditioned living beings by creating the stronger and weaker in every species of life. The mentality of lording it over the material nature and the creation has naturally created a disparity and therefore the law of struggle for existence. In the spiritual world there is no such disparity, nor there is such a struggle for existence.
Correct. So basically, yes. So disparity. So it is a disparity between living entities. So some are stronger, some are weaker. So based on their own desires, then they have got that specific type of body. Yes, ultimately that is common for all the jivas in the material world. Everyone is lording it over mentality. But still there is a variety of desires, and based upon the desires, then they are given different bodies. But as Srila Prabhupada explains, ultimately everyone is simply controlled by the modes and everyone has to simply suffer. Prabhupada gives that well-known example of how even the tiger has to starve. You know that, right? Why this tiger has to starve? So why he cannot get?
A sparrow sits on his body.
So one thing is, of course, the animals themselves run away, but but material nature under the influence of the Supreme Lord has created the world in such a way that everyone has to struggle. Even the most powerful bees also have to struggle. So Prabhupada gives the example of the small bird who sits on the back of the tiger and makes sound. And he announces to everyone that tiger is coming, tiger is coming, tiger is coming, and all the animals run away. But this tiger, even though so powerful and he can easily kill that bird, he cannot do so because the bird is sitting on the back and he cannot reach. And this is how material nature humbles everyone. And therefore Prabhupada is nicely writing, imitation lords. Imitation lords. Everyone is trying to become imitation lord. So nobody becomes the lord. Nobody becomes the lord. They are only trying to imitate. But ultimately all their attempts to become lord will be frustrated. Even if somebody is as powerful as lion or tiger. This is the nature of material world, and the struggle for material existence continues. Hare Krishna.
that or fulfills Prabhupada's desire?
That's a whole different topic, we don't know. But basic principle is this only. The basic principle is that everyone has to perform their respective duties. The more one performs one's respective duties without attachment to the fruits, the more the sattva will increase. And that is the basic principle. Okay, 10th verse. 10, no?
Prabhuji, we missed so much because we were not able to hear you only. We are sitting near the screen thinking that abhi aayenge, but kuch hua hi nahi actually, Prabhuji. So we missed.
No, we just started. Just about 5 minutes back we started. What to do, somebody else is in control.
Modes are in control.
And there is somebody who's acting under the influence of the modes. Okay, 10. Yada bhajati mam bhaktya nirapeksha swakarmabhi tam sattva prakritim vidyat purusham striyameva va.
Any person, whether man or woman, who worships me with loving devotion, offering his or her prescribed duties unto me without material attachment, is understood to be situated in goodness.
Yes, so this is goodness. Of course, here it is more than goodness actually, because there is bhakti also. But essentially the principle of, as we were discussing, nirapeksha swakarmabhi, so that is in goodness. So performing one's prescribed duties without attachment to the results, so that is in goodness. Of course, the aspect of bhakti is in transcendental goodness. Yes, that is sattvic, performing one's prescribed duties without attachment to the results. Okay, 11. Yada ashisha ashasya mam bhajeta swakarmabhi tam raja prakritim vidyat himsam ashasya tamasam.
Hare Krishna. When a person worships me by his prescribed duties with the hope of gaining material benefit, his nature should be understood to be in passion, and one who worships me with the desire to commit violence against others is in ignorance.
So this is now devotional service in the 3 modes. Correct? So he is performing devotional service, but then at the same time he is contaminated by modes. So this has been covered by Lord Kapila in the 29th chapter. So should we revise that? Okay, fine. So you go to 3rd canto, 29th chapter, text, I think so it is 6, 7, 8. कहाँ गया? So this is 29 chapter. Okay, from 7th. No. Okay. Okay, from 7th we can discuss. So 7th he says, you got that? Shri Bhagavan Vacha Bhakti Yogo Bahuvido Margir Bhamini Bhavyate Swabhava Guna Margena Pumsam Bhavo Vibhidyate. Read.
Hare Krishna. Lord Kapila, the personality of God, replied, O noble lady, there are multifarious paths of devotional service in terms of different qualities of the executor.
Yes, so it is Pumsam Bhava. So it is based upon the qualities of the executor. Otherwise, devotional service is always pure. But it is based upon how the executor or the performer of devotional service is influenced. So as Prabhupada is writing, pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness is one. Because in pure devotional service, there is no demand from the devotee to be fulfilled by the Lord. But generally, people take to devotional service with a purpose. Then he is quoting Bhagavad Gita. And the last sentence. Actually, the path of devotional service is one without a second. But according to the devotee's condition, devotional service appears in multifarious varieties, as will be nicely explained in the following verses. So, pure devotional service is one, but it's based upon the person. Okay, next. Abhisandaya yohimsam dambam matsaryam eva va samrambhi bhinna drigbhavam mayi kuryat satamasaha.
Devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent and angry, and who is separatist is considered to be in the mode of darkness.
Yes. So this is, devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent, angry is considered to be in the mode of darkness. So it's basically the person who is in the mode of darkness. So Prabhupada is writing, in pure devotional service, the only motive should be to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's not actually a motive. That is the pure condition of the living entity. In the conditioned stage, when one engages in devotional service, he should follow the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master in full surrender. The spiritual master is the manifested representation of the Supreme Lord because he receives and presents the instructions of the Lord as they are by disciplic succession. It is described in Bhagavad Gita, teachings therein should be received by disciplic succession, otherwise there is adulteration. To act under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master with a motive to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pure devotional service. But if one has a motive for personal sense gratification, his devotional service is manifested differently. Such a man may be violent, proud, envious, angry, and his interests are separate from the Lord's. Who is example for this? Yes, Daksha Prajapati. So definitely he was a devotee, but then he had all these qualities. One who approaches the Supreme Lord to render devotional service, but who is proud of his personality, envious of others, or vengeful, is in the mode of anger. He thinks that he is the best devotee. Devotional service executed in this way is not pure, it is mixed and is of the lowest grade, tamasa. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur advises that a Vaishnava who is not of good character should be avoided. A Vaishnava is one who has taken the Supreme Personality of God as the ultimate goal of life, but if one is not pure and still has motives, then he is not a Vaishnava of the first order of good character. One may offer his respects to such a Vaishnava because he accepted the Supreme Lord as the ultimate goal of life, but one should not keep company with a Vaishnava who is in the mode of ignorance. Okay? So one can give association to such a devotee, but one should not take association. So that type of discrimination for the purpose of association is bona fide, it's allowed to save one's own devotional service. But at the same time, one respects such a Vaishnava. So the respect always has to be there. But one need not associate. One need not take association. So the example is given that just like if one has a contagious disease. So what happens just like COVID? So when somebody had COVID, what was done? Yes, isolation. He was kept in isolation so that his infection does not affect others. So similarly, if a devotee also has too many bad qualities, tamasic qualities, which may influence one's devotional service, so one can keep safe distance, but at the same time be respectful, not offend.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, sometimes we see that initially devotees, they are in good track, but later on that same devotee after a period of time, he exhibits such kind of things. and it was never expected that same devotee may be inspiration initially, source of inspiration. Now now seeing his activities only, it becomes very discouraging. But he was earlier training devotees, coaching devotees also. So why such a great change happens, Prabhuji, all of a sudden?
Okay, good question. Okay, somebody would like to contribute? So I hope everyone heard the question. So the question is that, okay, initially we find good devotee in good standing, is properly following, very inspirational, but then after some time he may become like this, a devotee in tamas. So why does this change take place? What could be the probable causes?
Like yesterday I was hearing a lecture of Guru Maharaj. He was saying about Balram killing gorilla. So saying previously he was such a great devotee, he saw Lord Ram but taking so much risk. And was some of the leaders of army of Lord Ram. And because of such respect and position, he became proud of his position. And he started disrespecting Vaishnavas. When pride comes, he starts disrespecting others, Guru and Vaishnavas. Then he goes to bad association. And then whole bhakti becomes like lost nonsense.
Correct. So this is one important reason, and that is one becomes proud and one disrespects other Vaishnavas. When there is disrespect, the next thing is offense. So and then because of the offense, then the devotional service gets covered, and then one could land up in such a situation. Any other causes?
Even sadhana, lack of his own, neglecting his own sadhana.
Yes, so laxity in one's own sadhana, in one's own devotional practices, so then proper purification does not take place. Of course, that laxity in sadhana also could be due to offense. So that is also there. Of course, it is also based upon one's own free will, and yes, because of laziness, there's a possibility. And we do find these things happening sometimes as one becomes senior, because there is no accountability. There's not much accountability. Then one thinks, well, I'm free, nobody is there to see. And so then one can become lax in one's sadhana practices. Then yes, then the material contamination once again comes to the surface.
Also, atyahara prayasascha could be this one of the reasons also, maybe?
Yes, those also could be reasons. Samarpan Gop.
Prabhupada writes that in the same lines that no one should think himself as a liberated person immune to the influence of Maya.
Where are you reading from?
This is from 5.18.4. This Bharat Maharaj Prabhupada writes that 5.18.4.
One should not.
Therefore, so this Daivi Hesha Gunamayi he is quoting, and then he is saying that therefore no one should think of himself as a liberated person immune to the influence of Maya.
Correct.
Everyone should very cautiously execute devotional service by rigidly following the regulative principles. Thus he will remain fixed at the lotus feet of Lord. Otherwise, a little inattention will create havoc.
This is 5.8.14, right?
5.18.14 seems.
18.
5.18.4.
Acha, which chapter is this? 5.18.
This is that Vadanti Vishwam. This is not Bharat Maharaj Prabhu. This is prayers of one of the Vasis.
Correct.
I think there also he writes maybe. This is about preachers only, Prabhu. This verse, very nice translation of this verse. Vadanti Vishwam Kavayas Manashwaram.
What is this?
O unborn one, learned Vedic scholars who are advanced in spiritual knowledge certainly know that this material world is perishable, as do other logicians and philosophers. In trance they realize the factual position of this world and they preach the truth as well. Yet even they are sometimes bewildered by your illusory energy. This is your own wonderful pastime. Therefore I can understand that your illusory energy is very wonderful, and I offer my respectful obeisances.
Who is this I?
This is a prayer by, I think, which Vasis? Jambud, one of the
Okay, fine.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so
in this purport he is writing.
Liberated soul.
We have seen an example of case of Bharat Maharaj. He is quoting Bharat Maharaj here.
Okay.
That he was a great devotee, but
where is this? Go down.
Little down. Daivi Esha Gunamaya, after that I read everything. Therefore no one should think himself and all that.
Yes, no one should think of himself as a liberated person, immune to the influence of Maya. Everyone should read.
Everyone should very cautiously execute devotional service by rigidly following the regulative principles. Thus he will remain fixed at the lotus feet of Lord. Otherwise a little inattention will create havoc. We have already seen an example of this in case of Bharat Maharaj. Maharaj Bharat was undoubtedly a great devotee, but because he turned his attention slightly toward a small deer, he had to suffer 2 more births, as a deer and another as a Brahmana. Jad Bharat afterward, he was liberated and went back to Godhead. There is down also something. The Lord is always prepared to excuse his devotee. But if a devotee takes advantage of Lord's leniency and purposefully commits mistakes again and again, then Lord will certainly punish him by letting him fall down into clutches of illusory energy. In other words, theoretical knowledge acquired by studying Vedas is insufficient to protect one from clutches of Maya. One must strongly adhere to the lotus feet of the Lord in devotional service. Then one's position is secure.
Good. Very nice purport, no? Amazing. 5:18:4. Good. Thank you. A little inattention. And anyway, since this purport has come up here, so and as Srila Prabhupada is writing there, that how even a liberated person should be extremely careful. So therefore of course this discussion we wanted to bring up later. Okay, we'll bring it up later anyways. But yes, that's a good point. That's how everyone has to be very cautious to follow the various principles of devotional service. Any other reasons why this could happen? Why this degradation could happen?
Influence of the modes, and he chooses to go that way after some time.
Okay, the influence of modes is there, but why does it happen?
Like there is one example.
Because our intentions are not pure.
The studies. So
accumulate
like
vritti.
Here Arjuneshwar Prabhu is speaking something.
So like the pathways which were not traversed, the grasses grows after some time. In the similar, if the Brahmana is not studying his scriptures, so then the other modes keep covering.
Okay, fine. So basically, similar point. One is not very diligent in one's practices. Another important point is association. So asatsang. So asatsang also plays a vital role. In the case of Dvivida also that asatsang is there, no? Yes, he associates with Narkasur later on, and then that's how he becomes demoniac. So association also plays a very vital role, and therefore for the sake of association the discrimination is important. So one should be careful with whom one associates. So one should be diligent about that also. So all these different reasons could be there why there could be degradation in a devotee.
From non-devotees and if we eat food from non-devotees.
Yes, so association,
if we eat
right?
from non-devotees hands.
Correct. So basically association. Asatsang tyage Vaishnava.
But I think in Chaitanya Charitamrita that anyone who is not chanting attentively the holy name, then he is sure to be something like that he writes in Haridas Thakur, or sure to be allude or something like that. Exactly I don't remember.
Okay, so
actually chanting holy name he says there.
And then Haridas Thakur could not be deluded by her. So then he writes that portion that if somebody is chanting sincerely, then Maya will not catch him.
Okay, the reference for this is what you are saying. This I wanted to bring it up in the next chapter. But anyway, since you brought it up, so this is 5th canto, 6th chapter, Text 4. Five, 6, 6. 4, 4. ठीक है, थोड़ा पहले. हाँ, go to this purport. हाँ, go to the last part. Okay, go to the previous verse. Third. Which one you opened? Here. This is 4, na? This is 4 only. You showed 5. This is 3. This is 3 only, na? This is 3. This 3, correct, yes. If we stick to the principle of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra offenselessly, then by the grace of Srila Das Thakur, we may be saved from the allurement of women. However, if we are not very strict in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we may at any time fall victim to women. This is specifically victim to women. But of course, the same principle applies for this also. So, because when one does not chant attentively, the purification does not take place. So, if the purification does not take place, then the effects of Rajas and Tamas will remain. Very simple logic. So, therefore, chanting offenselessly, which basically means attentive chanting, first of all. So, as we know, that's the root of all the offenses. So, if one is not chanting the holy names attentively, medicine is not going inside. So, the medicine has to go inside. Pravishta karna randhrena swanam bhava saroruham dhunoti. So, dhunoti will take place when the medicine goes inside. So, if one is not chanting attentively, the medicine is not going inside, purification doesn't take place, then one can chant for lifetimes. Nothing is going to happen. Of course, something will happen, not much. So this is a very important reason actually. So because there is not much accountability for sadhana practices like chanting and all this. So much of these sadhana practices is based on self-motivation. But self-accountability is the most unreliable form of accountability. So that is what happens. So because there is no accountability, and of course, as far as chanting is concerned, even if somebody is asking every other day, somebody is asking, how is your chanting going on? One can always say, sab theek chal raha hai. So, but then one is ultimately fooling oneself. But that is what sometimes happens. As one senior Prabhupada disciple, he commented that this is Hare Krishna movement, but there is no Hare Krishna. So if one is not serious about the chanting of the holy names and the medicine is not going inside, then the purification will not take place, because the essential purification in this age is by chanting the holy names. So if one does not take it seriously, then purification doesn't take place, then the effects of the lower modes will remain. Then years go by, but then we see these symptoms. So basically one has to follow the process very diligently, otherwise these things happen. Alright? Hare Krishna. Okay, so now Rajogun. Now we are back in 329.9. My God, how much jumping we are doing. Huh? ठीक है. विषयान विसंधाय यश ऐश्वर्यमेव वा archada varchayedyo mam pritag bhavasa rajasa. Read.
The worship of deities in the temple by a separatist with a motive for material enjoyment, fame and opulence is devotion in the mode of passion.
Yes, so there is motive. So pritag bhava, he has a separate bhava other than pleasing the Lord. And he has desire for yasha and aishwaryam, fame and opulence. So here in the purport Prabhupada is writing, the word separatist must be understood carefully. So in the previous verse also it came, what was that? Binadrik. Pritag bhava. Previous verse is Binadrik. Here it is Pritag bhava. So Prabhupada is combining both. A separatist is one who sees his interest as separate from that of the Supreme Lord. Mixed devotees or devotees in the modes of passion and ignorance think that the interest of the Supreme Lord is supplying the orders of the devotee. The interest of such devotees is to draw from the Lord. Draw as much as possible for their sense gratification. So unfortunately sometimes we do find some devotees, they try to take from the institution as much as possible. Of course it is Krishna's institution. So but then we find sometimes one tries to exploit the resources of the institution for oneself. This is the separatist mentality. Actually pure devotion is explained in the previous chapter. The mind of the Supreme Lord and the mind of the devotee should be dovetailed. A devotee should not wish anything but to execute the desire of the Supreme, that is oneness. When the devotee has an interest or will different from the interest of the Supreme Lord, his mentality is that of a separatist. When the so-called devotee, now here Prabhupada says so-called devotee, when the so-called devotee desires material enjoyment without reference to the interest of the Supreme Lord, or he wants to become famous or opulent by utilizing the mercy or grace of the Supreme Lord, he is in the mode of passion. This is quite interesting. He wants to become famous or opulent by utilizing the mercy or grace of the Supreme. So just like by utilizing ISKCON's name, Srila Prabhupada's name, then people exploit to become famous or to get opulences. People collect money in the name of ISKCON and sometimes they use it for their own purposes. These things happen. So all this is mode of passion. Mode of passion. There are self-interest. Of course, things have been happening even during Prabhupada's time. Prabhupada's time also there have been cases of somebody selling a temple and looting the money. These things have been happening. And they continue to happen because the modes continue to remain. Okay, then he's talking about Mayavadis who have a different interpretation. A pure devotee has no interest but to act on behalf of the Supreme Lord. When one has even a tinge of personal interest, his devotion is mixed with the three modes of material nature. And then goodness. Karma nirharam uddishya parasmin va tadarpanam yajet yashtavyam iti va pritag bhavasa satvikaha.
When a devotee worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offers the results of his activities in order to free himself from the inebrities of fruitive activities, his devotion is in mode of goodness.
Right, so he's performing his duties according to Varnashram and is offering the results to the Supreme Lord, but there's a motive. So he wants to get free from any faults in the performance of his prescribed duties. Karmarpanam. Right. So if there's any inebriety or fault while performing the prescribed duties, then is atoned for by this offering process. But if this offering process is in the mode of goodness rather than in pure devotion, then the interest is different. Okay. So that is not pure devotion. So devotional activity should be transcendental to fruitive activities, empiric philosophical speculation. Pure devotional service is transcendental to all material qualities. And so now, so there is devotional service in 3 modes, and then by permutation combinations it can become 81. And then Prabhupada is saying that, so different devotional activities, hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, offering prayer, rendering service, surrendering of things, each of them can be divided into 3 qualitative categories. There is hearing in the mode of passion, in the mode of ignorance, mode of goodness. Similarly, chanting in mode of ignorance, passion, goodness. So like that there can be so many varieties of devotional service. Yes, Prabhupada is saying 3 multiplied by 9 equals 27, and again multiplied by 3, it becomes 80. But of course, even within that there can be permutations, combinations. So there can be, huge variety can be there. But one has to transcend all such mixed materialistic devotional service in order to reach the standard of pure devotional service as explained in the next verses. So that is what Krishna is also talking about here in the 11th canto, about this devotional service influenced by the 3 modes. Alright. So the purpose of studying all this is so that we don't get influenced and we transcend the influence of these 3 modes. Okay, 12th verse. Sattvam rajastamaiti guna jivasya neva me chitta jayestu bhutanam sajjamano nibhadyate.
The 3 modes of material nature, goodness, passion and ignorance, influence the living entity but not me. Manifesting within his mind, they induce the living entity to become attached to material bodies and other created objects. In this way, the living entity is bound up.
Yes. So they influence practically everyone. 3 modes influence everyone except the Lord. And they induce the living entity to become attached to material bodies or the created objects. And this way the living entity is bound. So this is what Krishna also tells in the 18th chapter, 40th verse. What is 18th chapter, 40th verse? See? 18th chapter, 40th verse, Bhagavad Gita.
So this is a natadasti prathagyam va devi devishu va punah sattvam prakritir jair muktam yadebhi syat stribhi gunay. There is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary system which is free from these 3 modes born of material nature.
Yes, there is no being existing in this material world. There is no one who is free from the influence of 3 modes. So practically except the Lord, nobody is free. So in this purport they are writing, the 3 modes of nature manifest within the material energy. When a conditioned soul adopts a material mentality, the modes exert their influence within the jurisdiction of that mentality. But if one purifies one's mind in devotional service of the Lord, the modes of nature can no longer act upon him since they have no influence on the spiritual platform. So when one comes to the spiritual platform, then no influence of the modes. Okay, so then now the Lord is describing about symptoms of the modes. Yadetarau jayet sattvam bhasvaram vishudam shivam tada sukkena yujjeta dharma jnanadi vipuman. Here these read. उसको ऑन करो. Okay, so this is goodness. So goodness is Bhasvaram, Vishadam, Shivam. So luminous, pure, auspicious. Then the result will be Sukhena, Dharma, Jnana, Adibi. So these are the qualities of Sattva. So as Vishnu Thakur says, when Sattva, which is revealing or enlightening in nature, pure and peaceful, conquers Rajas and Tamas. So when Sattva predominates, then the person becomes endowed with these qualities of knowledge, dharma, happiness, peace. Adibi means other qualities like control of senses and mind. Then Rajogun. Yada jayet tama sattvam raja sangam vidachalam tada dukkena yujjeta karmana yashasa shriya.
When the mode of passion, which causes attachment, separatism and activity, conquers ignorance and goodness, a man begins to work hard to acquire prestige and fortune. Thus, in the mode of passion, he experiences anxiety and struggle.
Yes. So in the mode of passion, one wants prestige, enjoyment. So he wants all this. And the result is dukkena. Same thing Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita also. Rajasastu phalam dukkham. When one acts in the mode of passion, there is always going to be misery. So initially one thinks, I'll enjoy. So that is the nature of Rajogun, happiness in Rajogun. Initially one thinks, I'll enjoy. But then later on, it turns into dukkha. So one must always keep this in mind. If one tends to go for the mode of passion, that is, get material opulence, enjoyment, wealth, prestige. If one is trying to get all these things, and many times if one wants to get all these things, then one will have to resort to some cheating to get them. So then when one does cheating and all that, then so much anxiety, misery, that is what happens. So many examples can be given. This is a constant feature. Okay, next. Yada jayet raja sattvam tamo mudham layam jadam yujjeta shoka mohabhyam nidraya himsaya shaya.
When the mode of ignorance conquers passion and goodness, it covers one's consciousness and makes one foolish and dull, falling into lamentation and illusion. A person in the mode of ignorance sleeps excessively, indulges in false hopes and displays violence towards others.
Okay, so we have already read this. Ignorance, these are the symptoms. So mudham, one becomes muda. So no discrimination. And so the result is mohabhyam, shoka, mohabhyam, nidraya, himsaya, ashaya, false hopes. I think in the Bhagavad Gita is also mentioned daydreaming. Prabhupada tells the story of the man with pots, daydreaming. You know the story, no? He's dreaming pots, he thinks I'll earn money, get married, and then if my wife and children don't obey, I'll kick them. And kicks all the pots, finished. So that is daydreaming. So that is in the mode of ignorance. Okay, next, 16. Yada chittam prasideta indriyanam cha nivrittihi dehe bhayam manosangam tat sattvam vidhi matpadam.
When consciousness becomes clear and the senses are detached from matter, one experiences fearlessness within the material body and detachment from the material mind.
You should understand this situation to be the predominance of mode of goodness, in which one has the opportunity to realize me.
Yes. So here the Lord is saying that if one comes to goodness, so in goodness, what are the symptoms? Chittam prasideta. So the consciousness becomes clear. So one is able to see things properly. Differentiate between good and bad, sinful and pious. Then the senses become detached from matter, indriyanam, nivritti, abhayam, asangam, detachment. So in this situation, one has the opportunity to realize me. Vidhi mat padam. So as we always say, the sattva is most conducive to practice devotional service. So that's what the Lord is also saying. So if one comes to sattva, then it becomes easy to realize the Supreme. So that is why we try to come to sattva gun. Okay, 17. Chittam is contaminated consciousness. Correct. 17. Vikurvan kriya chadhir anivrittischa chetasam gatrasvasthyam manobhrantam raja eter nishamaya.
You should discern the mode of passion by its symptoms. The distortion of the intelligence because of too much activity, the inability of the perceiving senses to disentangle themselves from the mundane objects, an unhealthy condition of the working physical organs, and the unsteady perplexity of the mind.
Okay, so he's saying that one should discern or understand that I'm being influenced by mode of passion, by the various symptoms. Okay, so one should be able to recognize that one is being influenced by the lower modes, by the various symptoms. Okay, next. Sida chittam viliyeta chetaso grahane kshamam mano nashtam tamo glanis tamastad upadharaya.
When one's higher awareness fails and finally disappears, and one is thus unable to concentrate his attention, his mind is ruined and manifests ignorance and depression. You should understand this situation to be the predominance of the mode of ignorance.
Yes. So this is when ignorance increases. So ignorance increases, discrimination goes away. And one is unable to concentrate his attention, mind is ruined. So all these are symptoms of ignorance. Next, edamane gune satve devanam balamedate asuranam cha rajasi tamasi uddhava rakshasam.
With the increase of the mode of goodness, the strength of demigods similarly increases. When passion increases, the demoniac becomes strong. And with the rise of ignorance, O Uddhava, the strength of the most wicked increases.
So, based upon the influence of the modes, then different people become strong. We'll come to that.
Demigods become strong in goodness, and passion demons become strong. So that's why means.
Yes, in general that is correct. In general that is true. So therefore that is how, if you read the churning of the milk ocean, so there it is explained that the Supreme Lord, through the various modes, then He empowers all of them. Through the mode of goodness, he empowers devatas. Through the mode of passion, he empowers the asuras. And through the mode of ignorance, he empowers Vasuki. So that is a good example for this. So yes, in general, that is how it works. So Vishwanath Thakur in his commentary says, just as the devatas, demons and rakshasas increase with the increase of sattva, rajas or tamas, so when the natures of detachment, attachment and bewilderment in the senses of the individual bodies increase, the presence of devatas, demons and rakshasas should be understood. So based upon the qualities that one is manifesting, one should understand which mode is acting. When one transcends the gunas by bhakti, the strength of the devotees increases. Okay, 20. Sattva jagaranam vidyat rajasa swapnamadishet prasvapam tamasa jantos turiyam trishu santatam.
It should be understood that alert wakefulness comes from the mode of goodness, sleep with dreaming from the mode of passion, and deep dreamless sleep from the mode of ignorance. The fourth state of consciousness pervades these three and is transcendental.
Yes. So these are the different levels of consciousness. So this is what? Jagrati, Swapna, Sushupti and Turiya. Jagranam, Swapnam, he says Prasmapam, deep sleep. And then there is Turiyam.
Different. This deep sleep and Sushupti is different, na?
No, deep sleep and Sushupti are same. Same.
Sushupti we think like somebody dies, then before somebody dies and then before takes next birth he is Prabhupada says for 7 months.
No, not that. Not that. It is deep sleep like in coma.
So that is Sushupti, na?
So that is only like deep sleep.
Now here it's mentioned somebody deep sleeping without dreaming is called also deep sleep.
So that is also correct. So if one is deep sleep, yes, without dreaming, that is also, yes, Sushupti.
So it is good for health, correct, na? Without dream one should sleep.
But it is not in our control. Yeah, if there is deep sleep, one will feel fresh. Without dreams. So now he is speaking about the destination. So this is in Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, Udvam gachanti satvasta madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganya gunavrittista ado gachanti tamasa. So similar thing here also. Upari gachanti satvena brahmana jana tamasadhodha amukhyad rajasantara-charinaha.
Person dedicated to Vedic culture are elevated by the mode of goodness to higher and higher position. The mode of ignorance, on the other hand, forces one to fall headfirst into lower and lower worlds. And by the mode of passion, one continues transmigrating through human bodies.
And the next verse is also very similar. I don't know why it's repeated. Sattve prarina swaryanti naralokam rajolayaha tamolayastu nirayam yanti mam eva nirgunaha.
Those who have lived this world in the mode of goodness go to the heavenly planets. Those who pass away in the mode of passion remain in the world of human beings. And those dying in the mode of ignorance must go to hell. But those who are free from the influence of all modes of nature come to me.
Okay, so that's simple to understand. Yeah.
I have one question upon this.
Huh?
I have one question upon this verse. He said that those who are ignorant, they go to hell. But if we say if people commit some sin, that also they have to, like somebody may be in passion, but they commit some sin, then also they will go to hell.
See, basically Rajas and Tamas is all mixed. As we have discussed before also, it's not possible to have pure Rajas or pure Tamas. So things are usually mixed. So therefore, usually Rajas and Tamas to usually go together only. But here, for the sake of understanding, you will find that there is a description. Both Bhagavad Gita and here, then Rajas, Tamas, Sattva are described separately for our understanding. But in reality, we find, as we have already seen, the Lord Himself says here, that usually there is always a mix. Okay? Okay, fine. I think so. The next verse, there is another topic discussion. So I think so we'll continue tomorrow. Okay? Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthnath Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Hare Krishna. We have Brahmachari class also today.